All right. Good morning, everyone. So, coming up towards 7 a.m. here, top of the hour. Um, the way I look at it right now, WETO made a nice move, and we missed it because that move started at 5 in the morning. Chinese stock squeezing higher. Hit a high of $11, topping tail. You had a first pullback, you had a second pullback, and now we're hoping we get a curl back through the high, but the high is noted with its topping tail. So at this point, it's it's tricky because it's a little more expensive. $10 a share. It's obviously Chinese with no news, so I'm kind of just holding tight for right now. Um, Even right there, the way it kind of popped up, I feel like maybe traders are trying to jump in that before 7 a.m. to see if this thing would go. And despite 100,000 shares of volume, um, it sort of stalled out there at the top. Hit a high of 1020 and then drops back down to 972, which is a 50-cent drop. So, yeah, I think, base hits maybe, might be able to get a couple little base hits on it, jumping in, jumping out. But because the price is a little higher, you could have bigger spreads and it could whip down 50 cents a share on you. So, I wouldn't want to punch it for 15 or 20,000 shares and then end up, catching a 50-cent drop and being down 10 grand on what was only supposed to be maybe a little base hit. I'm going to go easy on this. Um, so there you see another little pop up to the 50s, but it doesn't hold that level. So there's buyers that buy at the ask, but the bid doesn't really follow. The bid stays lower, so you get a bigger spread and then a flush back down. Let's see what the cost to borrow is on this. Yeah. Oh, yeah, kind of on the expensive side. The lowest I see is 10 cents at light speed. So the way I'm going to approach this, I'm going to reduce my share size just a little bit. Scalps, just kind of watch it, see what it wants to do. So we broke through the high there on that first candle. High is 1131 now. We've got 7 green candles in a row. So kind of a double top, I would say at this point. I mean, it did break it by a little bit, but 7 green candles in a row, a little bit of a double top. I don't like how it pops up like 30, 40 cents like that and then flushes right back down. Yeah, good call, Stefan. Nice levels. Yeah, well, that gap is so big. I'm just putting 14.31 and $20 levels on right now and leaving it at that. So on this one, I would say that there's definitely momentum on it, but it feels a little um, feels a little inconsistent where you'll get a burst of buying and the ask jumps up, but then it stalls and immediately all of a sudden we sort of see a sweep of selling. And so you get these like 30-cent pops and then like a 30-cent drop, but because the spread opens up to 20 cents, it's like a 50-cent drop if you're bailing out on the bid. And CAPR, by the way, is easy to borrow, so I've disregarded that one pretty much entirely. It's got a 45 million share float. No, not really a cup and handle yet because the cup is forming on the 5 minute chart, but you've got these two topping tails right here, right? Those little, highs. So we would really kind of need the 5 minute chart to give us an alignment. Otherwise, we'd just be buying, the eighth green candle in a row. PWCM is a US company. Um, Second quarter financial results. So a micro pullback, basically, you got to be careful taking a micro pullback when it's too extended in general. Micro pullbacks are better when it just is beginning to ramp up because typically those first pullbacks get bought up. So first and second, once you start getting to third, fourth, fifth, unless you have a cushion on the stock, it can be a lot riskier. So WETO is on side chart for now, while the 5 minute is maybe setting up. Yeah, I do see that curl on LB GJ, but let me just look at the daily chart. Did we have a high volume day recently? We did. We had a day where it squeezed up to 7 and then dropped. Hmm. When I look on the daily chart and see that recent big move, it makes me a little nervous. Yep, good call, Thomas. So this one's also a double top. So since this one went up to 8 the other day, or 762 roughly, those are levels to watch. 20,000 share seller up there. Yeah, so someone's someone wants to sell on this one. We'll let him sell for now and see what the chart ends up doing in a little bit. DFSC was a tricky one yesterday. Canadian company. I feel like I very rarely do well in Canadian stocks. Not sure why. Yeah, well, and suddenly attention is dispersed. Now you've got DFSC, CGTL, LBGJ. So, yeah, now we've got dispersed attention here a little bit. So let's just wait a second. CGTL is still on relatively light volume. It's only up 35%. Yeah, so you can see attention sort of shifting. High was 720. So we want to let it pull back, give it a chance to fail, see if it holds up. Back to the VWAP here, and then back to 6. It's not easy to borrow at light speed. So this pullback so far isn't really getting bought up very well. SLE had made a bigger move earlier in the year. They had some like news about cricket or something. Um, but yeah, as of right now, I don't know. I don't see any headline. This kind of feels similar to WXM from earlier in the week, where you've got a double top, and then it's like, is it going to do another double top or a triple top? It is our leading gainer. So we have that going for us. Unlike some of the others that pop up very briefly and then dip back down, this one's still holding that leading gainer position. Like LBGJ is only up 34% now. So it moves down the scanner pretty quickly. CC CGTL also moving down the scan. Well, so WETO pulled back a little bit too much to be a cup and handle. That's the problem. The cup and then the handle needs to be up near the top. So it came all the way back down to 9. I have a level 2 window next to my chart down below. So I have the basically the same screen. It looks like this and like this. So that's on my laptop kind of monitor, my monitor right above my keyboard. And this chart is linked to the same one that's on screen share. So whatever you guys are seeing is the same thing I'm seeing. On the third monitor, I have a second stock on a chart, but that's just a big chart. Um, yeah, no, so I can trade on one screen, but it's very hard to also watch the chat room and stream on that one screen because then I'm running out of space. You know, my chat room and streaming is on another monitor. I have done it before, but it's not ideal. So the starter and then the adding is very discretionary. It's based on what I'm seeing in the moment, what I sort of interpret as the potential of the stock, how much I'm up on the position. Sometimes when I'm up 50 cents or a dollar a share instantly, I keep adding because I've already got such a huge cushion and clearly the thing is working. Um, those are probably the best examples of the best times to add, but there will be other instances where I'll add maybe on a dip or something like that, and that can work as well. No, I don't. I don't usually update Lightspeed every time they put out a new release. I I don't. Like I get nervous. I don't want to break something, but I have been seeing they've had a post about a new update, so I'll log out and see what I'll read what it says. So, new version available. Close platform before running update. Windows users only, not for Mac. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll click download now. It's not like we're doing anything else at the moment. IPW, iPower, US company. Not sure that's going to work. So, yeah, I guess I'm on the new version now. Seems fine. I don't know what they added. So, I'm not jumping in this. The theme right now, today, not the big theme, but just kind of the trend of the morning has been sort of dispersed attention. Random stock pops up, doesn't hold up, then it drops. I think the best way to describe the process of adding is when I'm reviewing a trade like a live archive, and I can the next one that we have that's a good example. I'll do a deep dive on that because that then it's easier for me because I've got an example right in front of me of what I actually did in that scenario. On something like CGTL, let's just say. Um, if this broke over 650, I might take a starter. And if I took a starter and then within seconds it's printing 660, 670, I'm almost certainly going to add because it's already proving that it's doing what I thought it would do. So when I see it doing what I think it's going to do, I add quickly. And because then I'm thinking, okay, we could get a really nice squeeze here, $1 a share, maybe more in this market at least. And so that's when I'm adding pretty aggressively. And then if all of a sudden it breaks through levels, when it stalls out, I might take a little off the table. And then on that next pullback, if I'm still holding and I'm still in the green, then I'll add back. And then if it moves quickly again, I'll add, and then take profit up into the next level. So for me to want to add, I pretty much need to see the price moving as soon as I'm buying. That means I'm right. I have the right idea. I'm not as inclined to add at or below my existing average. There are times when I will, but those are not usually the best trades. So you've got a high on CGTL right around 690 right here of this push, and then the previous high was 720. So percentage gain, we're up 80% right now. About 5,000. Oh, see, look at that though. As soon as I get in, you see that seller that popped right up at 83. And I just realized I'm in my retirement accounts or my margin accounts. So I'm going to switch. So there's a little seller that just put a ceiling on it right at 83. Well, I don't think he saw me. I had 5,000 shares, but I think whoever that was just put a sell order kind of right at a critical spot where we're in a little micro pullback here and we needed to get back over like 85, 95. We had just dropped down to 640 and then popped back up, and then that seller was there. So their order is gone now, but who knows, it could come back. Yeah, I'm sure there's certainly short sellers that watch me trade or subscribe to the room. I'm trading momentum, right? So if something is moving quickly, I'm trading it. And when I'm kind of like, it's done, it's over, that's probably, I'm sure some people would probably look at that as a signal that, okay, this is someone who's trading momentum for a long time. If he thinks it's over, maybe this is a spot to be considering a short. Now, sometimes I think it's over and then it goes higher, like right now. But, if I don't subscribe, like I don't pay attention to what short sellers are doing because I don't find it helpful. If I'm like, oh, there's this big short seller who's got a 500,000 share short position on this. Oh, so then I'm like, oh, he's going to get squeezed. I'm going to keep adding because I see their order. And then, well, what I might not know is that they're willing to add another 500,000 shares, and now they're short a million. And then I'm trading, trying to get in the head of another person. That seems very distracting. I wouldn't. I don't think that would be helpful at all. I try to focus on the price action. Now, if I see behavior, then I'm like, oh, there's a big seller there. Um, you know, you would see a short order if you were subscribing to someone the way you subscribe to me, where you can see my orders. I just meant in that regard. You could see, oh, this person. Well, I don't know if ever. I think other people don't show you where they're in at, but in any case, that was kind of what I meant. But um, yeah, the way I kind of focus is I'm trading momentum, and then once it sort of dies off, I'm like, whatever. And I think there are people that would rather than try to chase the momentum on the front side, they just try to trade the back side. I have a episode I'm going to upload, um, if not today, tomorrow, where I'm actually going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. But in any case, this stock right here, these topping tails, is just heavy. I use top of book, not total view. Let me go over to Weeble for a second. I can't remember. Weeble's data is a little bit different. So NBBO is what I needed to see halt levels. But you could choose to do it as red to green or as blue or multicolored as you'd like. Yeah, WETO is still holding its place as the leading gainer. This was WXM earlier in the week, where we had this sort of double top extension, double top, and then finally it ended up squeezing. But when it squeezed, it was a little closer to 9 a.m. It's just a sort of a similar chart. I don't know. Partly because of those two double tops. WETO. I'm looking for the squeeze through 11 here on this. So now watching for a retest of the high a day. Let's see if we can break 1150. So watching WETO in this area. Watching back over 11. So right now we've got this high. I want to see this break and hold over this level. But right now you can see how it's sort of flushing back down. So now watching up here. Nice. Added 1170. Now looking for this to squeeze. So really nice move here so far. holding 10,000 shares, added at 11.22. So now my guess is that some shorts are getting squeezed on this. So 2 trades there on that. Nice job, SJ, on that call. I got in at it was like I think my average was 48. So my first starter was 1035, and then I was adding as it moved higher there. So today's day 33 of the small account challenge. So the move from WXM sort of inspired that trade because WXM had a similar kind of double top and then squeezed through it earlier in the week, right here. WETO. Yeah, I see the high is 73. Light speed shows 74 for me. I don't know. That's a fairly small discrepancy. As it started to pull away, right here up to 10.15, 10.20, and it broke over this pivot of 10.20, I thought, all right, our next target is a retest of 11. So now I'm just sitting tight. So I usually like getting in the first and second micro pullback as something is moving quickly, and then once it starts getting a little more extended, unless I have a cushion, I kind of take my foot off the gas a little bit. Well, when it's not working, usually I'm seeing like a big seller or something like that, and I'm sort of immediately like, I need to draw back. I need to jump back out of this. SPAI earnings. Um, I'm just gonna read it for a second. Revenue of 1.3 million represents a big increase from 92,000. Yeah, okay, that's true. But let's just see. It is a US company, so a little outside the theme. Easy to borrow at light speed. The other stocks that we've had that have popped up haven't held very well today. So, this is an Israeli stock. This hasn't been a theme that's worked super well recently. No volume, really no volume so far. So I'm just going to wait. So yeah, no, 15, 20 cents as a beginner. If you just get your 15, 20 cents, get in, get out, you're done. Yes, maybe only with 100 shares you're getting started, but you scale that up to 200, 400, 800, 1500. You start increasing your size, and 15, 20 cents is a meaningful amount of money. If you're trying to get 50 cents a share per day, there's a lot of days where I don't do that. So, being able, like this position was 30,000 shares today. And, well, there's a couple trades in there, but so, I did end up getting a bigger move, but it doesn't always happen. I think if you can focus on getting 15, 20 cents, get green. As soon as you see an exit indicator, get out and don't go back. That's the thing to do when you're getting ready to go live. In the sim, you trade everything. You gain a lot of experience, and then you scale it down to taking just like one or two trades a day, proving you can actually make money in the sim. Then you flip the switch and go live. And those first weeks going live, you really want to just take one trade a day to get green, prove consistency, and just have back-to-back green days. And when you have a red day, it's a small red day. You just take one trade and you're done. Chapter 14 of Strategies and Scaling walks you guys through that. Um, you know, I I think it's just really important to build that consistency before you start to take, you know, a bunch of trades every day. Whenever I'm having a hard time, I go back to focusing on just, trying to take one good trade. I do the same thing. Just one, all I need is one good trade. So we'll watch to see if we get any fresh headlines at the bottom of the hour. Obviously, yesterday we had that crazy spike on XHG when we had that big pop on Socket. That was a little later in the morning as well. That started at, it's like, what time was that? 9. So, you know, still keeping an eye on things because you never know. You could have something that pops up. What time was XHG yesterday? That was like 8:40. Let me just confirm that. 8:35. So, 8:30 to 9. You never know. Well, we're always still learning. I'm still learning. And the market changes. So, on the one hand, that creates a challenge when you're learning because if you are struggling to kind of keep up and then the market shifts, then it's like you're always sort of one step behind. Um, but that's part of trading is that you're always learning. The market's shifting and changing, and yet general concepts of momentum trading, trend based trading, those remain the same. Remember that SXTC had this big rejection here at like 5 a.m. Current volume is 10 million shares. High a day is 677. So right into volume weighted average price here. Looks like shorts are in control, holding it below VWAP. If it broke VWAP, I'd be interested, but if it can't break over VWAP, there's no trade. Higher volume on the red candle. Yeah, looking back on the daily on SXTC, there's been a few days that it did have somewhat higher volume, but you've got that split, reverse split. All-time lows right now is are 310, $3.10 a share. Nice window from 631 to 1040. It just seems like it already tried earlier and then it got slammed back down here. Let's see. $200 moving average is not close. It's far away because of the reverse splits. Nice, Bob. Yeah, it looks like all-time high was 17. No reverse splits. That's nice. I mean, that's pretty. It's pretty impressive. I mean, it hasn't gone up tremendously. Looks like you retired at a good time, but they haven't needed to do reverse splits, so kind of holding its own. Why did you guys list on the exchange? Was it to raise more money for development? Hmm, nice. You stuck with it. It's good. There's a seller holding this back on SXTC. So it looked like an iceberg order at 521. So we're kind of coming into the window where we had, a couple big moves this week. Iceberg, it's when you've got a big seller, a hidden order, but they're allowed to hide their orders, so there's not really anything we can do about that. Thanks, Barbara. So let's see. STKH, this was the Israeli stakeholder food company. Not interested. This is funny that it's going up that much. You know, it had like 80 million shares of volume 2 days ago. And this was the area where it had resistance right up around 6. So we'll let it pull back and see what it wants to do. But today we've had a little theme where we've had stocks that, pop up and then they roll over and then that's it. So we don't know if this is going to give us more opportunities. 20,000 share seller, bringing it back down. So I got a little starter here on this, looking for the squeeze through 750. So now watching over this level. Can I get a small account trade up here? Let's see. So watching 755, 765. Added right here. Now looking for the squeeze up over 8. So let's watch this up here. Letting it dip down. So holding 5,000 shares. Now we've got some momentum that we can work with. So watching this area. Bought the dip at 72. Now watching over 815, 825. So let's see if we can get the break of 850 on this. We're now up 170%, so this is our leading gainer, that's for sure. So watching this area. Let it dip down. So watching dips. Watching for a trade in the small account here. Looking for the squeeze through 8. So letting it dip down. This is our first pullback. Holding 3,000 shares. Letting it pull back a little bit more. No trade in the small account. Was ready to, but it didn't hold over 8. So second leading gainer right now. So the low down here is 662. So, it's funny. I didn't really know. I didn't really think it would work that well, but got a little icebreaker on it. Not sure if it was time of day that allowed that to move up that much, but that would have been a nice dip down there off of six. It flushed so quickly. Wouldn't have had a lot of time to take that trade, but so now that this is pulling back for a second, let's just analyze the daily chart. So 710 was that previous high. We want to see that level hold. Low of this pullback, 620, but his dip back to 665. So a pivot would be, well, 775 for a squeeze through 8, but it's a little bit higher up for an entry. Interestingly, it's on short sale restriction and it's on the threshold list, and it has 300% margin requirement for short selling. Is the cost to borrow on this? Let's see. Do a little research while we wait. Cost to borrow is very high at Lightspeed. It's like 50 cents a share. Threshold list means the stock has had failure to delivers. So I'm taking a starter here in the small account and looking for the squeeze through 8. So now watching in the big account over 825, right up here. So added here, now looking for the squeeze through 850. Let's look for that extension higher. So watching this area here. Bought the dip at 63, now looking for the squeeze through 850. So a little heavy here. Darn it. You don't love to have that happen. Hmm. So I wonder why that was so heavy up there at 8. I don't know. Well, I don't know if adding more indicators would really help. I didn't realize the relative volume on this was only 4. That was a problem. We really need high relative volume. Yeah, I lost on both the big account and the small account. Yep, I use Schwab for the small account. Well, you do have to sign a waiver to trade some of these foreign listed stocks, which I did when I began the challenge. WETO is remaining the leading gainer, but you know, it's tricky. It's above VWAP, but it's not holding up really that well. STKH back below.